Welcome to Buckets. The Heat are terrible. My name's Matt Moore, and I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. Thanks for joining us on a Thursday afternoon. We're recording this on, Friday. We're recording this on Thursday. I'm very confused because my oldest graduated from his elementary school this morning, and I thought that was on a Wednesday, but it was on a Thursday. The day that matters is that this is the day that we bury the Miami Heat for not being a competent offensive team. We'll talk about game 6 between the Heat and the Celtics today. A reminder that you want to make sure that you check out the Action Network app. It's the best way for you to track your picks, get up to the second information. You can follow all of Brandon's picks, like the golden Jaylen Brown conference finals MVP pick, which we will talk about in a little bit about how to hedge that, because he got some questions on that. But first, making his final full-time contributing Buckets appearance is the cowardly traitor, Raheem Palmer. Ra, I don't really care, but how are you?
I'm good. I mean, damn, you turning me into Kevin Durant right now. It's not that bad.
We'll give Ross
Raheem, you got a bag still. You're not Kevin Durant.
Yeah, you got a bag. We'll give Ross some time at the end of the show to thank the audience and do all that. This is his last episode. Going forward, it'll be me and Brandon, and we'll see whoever else that we can pull in to the conversation. I got some folks on the guests list that I've been thinking about to try and get in for the finals as we approach those. But first, we're going to talk about Miami and Boston game 6. Game 5. Before we do best bets, let's do best bets first. Brandon, what's your best bet for game 6?
I am taking Jimmy Butler's under on points. Right now, the only one I can find is 21.5 at FanDuel. I will parlay that with the Celtics money line, because if Butler doesn't score, they're not going to win. That is plus 123 right now. But find me alternate lines. Find me alternate unders. Whatever the lowest line I can find on Jimmy Butler points, that's what I want.
Raheem Palmer, what's your best bet for game 6, Celtics and Heat?
I'm going to go first half under 102.5.
I like that. Okay. I'm not betting this. I'm staying away from this one because I don't like the line. It's a lot of points. It's just a lot of points. Celtics opened 7. It bumped to 9. There was a 7.5 in the market I saw last night. It immediately was up at 8, and then it's up to 9 now, which is that's just like a lot of points. There's an 8.5 in the market. You can find it. Look, Brandon, I don't feel bad about betting Heat. I didn't bet him heavy. I talked about the reasons why, about all the ways that this could go wrong. That was a lot per Cooper Moorhead that works for the Heat in their on their website. This was the first game of the series in which the Heat had a better expected effective field goal percentage than the Boston Celtics, and yet they shot considerably worse. Look, I'll ask you this. Should I have expected Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry to be that bad offensively in game 5?
No, nor in the series. As the series has gone on, like you can't judge the outcome of how these bets have gone when, like, as Raheem would say, everyone's in the hospital. Like, there's nobody is left. It's Jaylen Brown might win conference finals MVP because he's the only one still healthy in the series. Like, everyone is hurt. Butler got hurt. Lowry clearly hasn't been healthy. Half of the Heat are questionable going into every game. Celtics have had plenty of injuries. Like, this is extremely not a series to get to the end of it and say, okay, here's what we have learned about these teams and make some grand proclamations. We'll do it because this is what we do in sports media, but this is really not the series to do that. It just, the Celtics are winning the battle of attrition. They were probably the slightly better team. The Heat had home court. Yeah. It hasn't mattered enough, and the Celtics have stayed healthier and are going to move on probably.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I never really, like, I didn't go into the series and wasn't like, oh man, I like the Heat here. I think the Heat are going to win. I bet him a little bit because of the value on it, but that's also because I had so many Celtics bets. Like, I bet the Celtics so consistently because of all the things that Brandon's talked about since January 29th. Like, I bet them heavy in March when the markets were behind, right? So when the markets catch up, it's when I'm usually looking to go the other way. Like, that's pretty much what I'm looking to do. Is I bet the Heat early in the year because it looked like I recognized early this was a team that could make a deep playoff run, and they did. They made the conference finals. They won 2 games. But now, like, do I think that the Celtics are going to win? Absolutely. I think the Celtics are going to win this game. I think the series is over. I think Brandon was right that whoever won game 4, the other team is not going to win again. There's all these like permutations. Like, I'm not surprised. I'm not like, wow, I just really didn't think. I still struggle with how good Boston is because Miami looks so horrible. And that's like with a lot of respect for the Celtics defense. It's not that I don't think the Celtics defense is great. I am simply not at the level of this is an all-time great team. I still continue to look at this and go, no Chris Middleton. The Nets were a joke. The Heat absolutely had the wheels fall off. I will tell you, your Philly guy, Kyle Lowry, is officially on my, I never want to bet another game in which he's involved for the rest of my fucking life.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's the one thing. I mean, you asked Brandon, could we expect Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry to look like this? Well, I think we could have expected Kyle Lowry to look like this. I mean, look, we saw James Harden last year come back from a hamstring injury. It just was nothing. And this is an older Kyle Lowry, 36 years old, hamstring injury. He's really struggled to stay healthy in the regular season. And then in the postseason, he's been struggling. Like he hasn't been playing. So we could have expected this. I love Kyle Lowry, but I mean, he's reached Larry Holmes status. They might need to take him out back at this point.
Do you think, Raheem, are you thinking about renaming Larry Holmes status Kyle Lowry status? Is that how bad it's gotten for Kyle Lowry?
It's not that bad. I mean, look, as bad as Kyle Lowry has looked, this is not Larry Holmes in that ring with Mike Tyson. So,
Ross, let me give you some Kyle Lowry numbers. Game Lord. 5, Kyle Lowry, no points, no assists, 1 rebound, 3 turnovers, 5 fouls, 0 for 6 from the field, a 0 offensive rating. Kyle Lowry. For the series, he's played 3 games. He has 14 points combined. He's on 5 of 23 shooting, and in 75 minutes, the Heat have a 60 offensive rating with Kyle Lowry on the court.
So look, he had the hamstring injury, and that one's usually like it doesn't heal, and he had to come back because basically they were getting killed in the non-Gabe Vincent minutes, right? So he comes back and he tries to play. Like, I'm willing to say that he's hurt. My problem is that Kyle's had a really weird season.
Yeah,
he had a large gap where he was out for personal reasons that were so personal that they've never really been fully explained, and like I've heard various rumors of what it was, and it doesn't really matter. Like it's personal, and he deserves like all the space and distance. The problem is like that big gap meant that there was a large amount of time when we really couldn't evaluate him, and he wasn't great, and he looked not good. He never really looked good at any point this season when he was healthy and available to play. And so now it's like he's injured. I'm like, yeah, but the floor is also just completely fallen out. 0 points, 0 assists, 523 shooting. Like there is nothing that Kyle Lowry establishes when he's on the court right now for this Miami Heat team. And that to me is a huge issue. First half under, you like, why was that the bet that you zeroed in on?
Okay, so I mean, I initially like the under, but when you look at this full game total, we're looking at 201. And at some point, it's like the value starts to slip away. And you look at the first half of these games, they've mostly been rock fights. There's always been a team who just can't score at all and can't do anything. So, I mean, you're looking at this Heat team who, to me, they just don't have enough offensively. I mean, Tyler Hero is out with his groin injury. He'll probably play because it's a desperation situation, but it's still Kyle Lowry. It's still Jimmy Butler. They still don't look very good at all. And then both of these two teams have solid defenses. So I'm expecting a rock fight in the first half. And then, you know, if this is a close game, I mean, you could see some fouls and stuff like that kind of push it, you know, to an opposite direction. So I forgot to go first half under.
Okay.
So Raheem, I considered that bet actually, because that's instinctively, like, that's what I feel like I'm seeing in these games. I looked at it. The pace actually has been higher in the first half than the second half, and the offensive ratings are higher in the first half than the second half. Not by a lot, but I was expecting it to be by a lot the other direction. Is that just we have blowouts and the second half numbers aren't really meaningful? Like, do you make anything of those numbers? Does that give you any hesitation on your first half under?
It feels like we're having so many blowouts that it's just like the second half. It's just, I don't want to say it's extended garbage time, but the other team's trying to fight their way back into the game. And obviously game 5 was a little bit of the opposite. But I mean, you look at that, we were looking at the third quarter and both teams were in the 40s. Like, so it's just, it just feels like we're dealing with a rock fight. And I think you're going to see some defensive intensity in game 6 because it is a desperation situation. So
Yeah,
I just feel like first half was the way to go.
Brandon, I mean, yours is pretty. This is not hard to figure out. Like Jimmy Butler looks horrible. He looks hurt. He has been trash. I thought he would bounce back from the 2 bad games. He hasn't. And that to me signals like once he had that bad game, I was like, okay. Like I thought that he had injuries, but he could manage it and get back, and he just can't. He's just too hurt. So this one seems pretty obvious to just play the under on Jimmy.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, I tried to think through, okay, I remember feeling this way about a series not so long ago. Wow, the team that I thought was better and going to win the series came through with the big closeout late. They got the win. They all celebrated. They thought they had the series. Reminds me of a different game 5, one series ago when the Bucks did that against the Celtics and Jrue had the big defensive plays late and they got the win. And I was like, here we go. My Bucks tickets are looking pretty good. And then the Celtics came back and got game 6, flipped it. And so I was trying to think, okay, the Heat are good. The Heat are a good team. The Heat will defend well. They'll fight hard. They're not going to roll over. Could this be that? Could this be, the Celtics look great. We got this, but could the Heat flip it? I just don't think so. And Jimmy Butler is the reason. Like the healthy Heat or a slightly healthy Heat, yes, absolutely could flip it. But I just don't know how we can interpret that that's what the Heat team is that we're seeing. Butler had 13 points in game 5 on 4 of 18 shooting. That was his best game in the last 3 games. Like that's bad. He has, in the last 3 games combined, he has 27 points on 10 of 40 from the field. He's not making shots. He's not really looking to score the way he was early. Like, remember early on, he would go an entire quarter and just score whenever he wanted. They had no answer for him. He had 41 in game 1. He has 27 the last 3 games. So under on Butler's points. Do we agree? Like, it doesn't juice it a lot to add in the Boston money line, but if Butler doesn't even score 20 points, the Heat aren't going to win, are they?
No, there's no,
not at all.
I don't see anyone being able to do it. I mean, even if Tyler comes back, like Tyler would have to have like a 37-point game.
Yeah, like a huge game.
And nobody's putting that up against the Celtics except Giannis. So
I as a thought process, I looked at this. So we all 3 of us were all on Miami game 1, right? Because there was the game 7 thing. We all were ready. It was the short rest and Miami did it. Butler had 41 points. He had 18 times to the free throw line. He's not getting to the line anymore. If you throw out game 1 as an outlier, as a game 7 remnant outlier, like what would happen? How would we be viewing this series if there was no that game 1? If it was like, oh, we gave him a couple days of rest and we started. Here are the 4 games since then. Miami has a sub 100 offensive rating with 114 defensive rating. So minus 14.5 net rating. Basically those numbers, the way I looked it up, I just searched last 4 postseason games. They're basically equal to the last 4 Bulls postseason games for reference. Like that's what Miami has been the last 4 games. We had one half when Miami made threes and Boston turned it over. The Heat are 45% effective field goal percentage the last 4 games. I think if you throw out the outlier of game 1, this series actually isn't anywhere as close as it's felt like it may have been.
I'm sorry, I'm still not there. That's selection bias, man. Like if you go back and you ask the Celtics about like, were you just tired? Like I understand that we liked them in that spot, but again, they could have lost that game if the Heat weren't decent. The Heat won 2 games in the series. I don't know why you're so dead set on this idea. Like they're obviously banged up as the series went on, and congrats on the Celtics for being marginally more healthy. But like the idea of just like the Celtics are, again, I'm not with you. I'm still not with you. The Celtics are like this massive tier above everybody else. This is not a God mode team. This is not the 2016. Not even, let's go back even further, right? Like this team is not as good as the 2013 Heat. This team is not as good as the 2014 Spurs. The team is not as good as 2015 or 16 Warriors or well, they might be better than 2016 Cavs. That one I might have to consider. They're not better than 17.
They're not better than them.
They're not better than 17 or 18 Warriors. They're not better than they're better than the 19 Raptors. They're not better than the 2020 Lakers. Like I don't understand like why you're like why it's is it just that you just really think that the Heat are that bad?
No, like I'm just presenting the numbers. I'm just saying.
Oh, dude. as somebody that does that all the time, do not do that. Do not do that to me, sir.
I don't disagree with all the team comps you just said. Like, look, just by having a best player that is worse than all the team's best players, you just said, like, you list off a bunch of teams that have LeBron and Steph and Durant and Kawhi on them. There is none of that on Boston. Like, Boston loses to all those teams.
Who is the third best team in the East playoffs this year?
The Bucks. Actually, no, I mean, honestly, the Bucks to me.
The Bucks were second. The Bucks were second.
Yeah, the Heat.
It's probably the Heat.
That's fine. This is what, honestly, I feel like Brandon has lost me money because his hyperbolic takes on Boston and Miami have caused in my brain to resist him and go the other way, when it's just like, I don't think that Miami's better than Boston. I never thought that Miami was better than Boston. I did not think that there was real great value.
I mean, you're the only one on this podcast who's picked Miami.
I didn't pick Miami. You mean game by game?
Oh, I thought you picked Miami to win the series.
No. Like, I bet them based off of, much like Brandon maintains that he didn't pick the Bucks because of his irrational hatred of Giannis Antetokounmpo, which I talked to him about last night. Like, I also like, I bet the value, right? And like, to be more fair to Brandon, like Brandon was like, no, the value is on the Bucks, and that's how I felt after when it was like, wait, hang on a second, I got a 1-1 series with Miami, who all these things, and again, I just feel like the injuries wound up hitting Miami. And I know everyone's gonna be like, well, Marcus Smart and Robert Williams. If Al Horford's gonna play God mode, okay. I do wonder about that though, Brandon. If we're looking forward, is the Al Horford magic gonna run out at any point? Because that's a lot of this.
We're gonna get the conference finals MVP. Al Horford is the conference finals MVP. He's been amazing. Like, he's not gonna win it. He definitely is not going to win it. He's not gonna win the finals MVP because it's Al Horford. But both series in a row, he has been phenomenal. So I don't like, hopefully he stays healthy, and it's cool. Everybody likes Al, so we're happy to see him playing this well. But by the number that I'm saying, here's why I looked that up. My instinct right now, and I kind of said this 10 minutes ago, my instinct is there must be some value on the Heat. This can't be over. Like, there must be some value on Miami. It's a good team. They show up, they fight hard. There must be some value. And the last 4 games of data, the most recent 4 games of data we have, say, you know what? I don't think there's value. Don't talk yourself into it. Just take out
one of the Heat's 2 wins. The Heat look really bad.
Like, if you just look at the most recent games in which the injuries are there, I'm not saying that the Heat are bad because of it. I'm saying if you look at the most recent data we have, the data says
the most recent data. How is 5 games not recent, but 4 is?
4 is more recent than 5. Because of the injuries, like the point, like, I'm not discounting the Heat. I'm not saying the Heat are bad. I literally said earlier that we can't make these grandiose judgments on them. The last week of Heat games, when nobody is healthy anymore, the numbers are bad, and the numbers say there's not value on the
half
Heat.
court. The half court offense stuff is really bad. It's so bad. Yeah. Well, no, here's the thing. It's so bad. That's one of the reasons why I kept like leaning Heat. Is I was like, this is unsustainably bad. Like, I watch a lot of basketball. I look a lot of these stats up daily. The half court stuff is a big part of my analysis. And what I'm telling you is that Miami has been unsustainably terrible in half court offense.
I think a lot of that has to do with the injuries.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Even with injuries, with a bad shooting team versus the mighty, mighty Celtics defense, which is legitimately that good, even through all of that, they're still underperforming to what I would say is like a 15 percentage point differential. Like, they're 15 percentage points, I think, worse than they should be.
I mean, so what does that mean? Instead of getting blown out by 23, they lose by 8?
Yes.
I'm just saying, I mean, the spread for game 5 was Celtics minus 1.5. It closed at 2.5.
Yeah, 3. I hear you. But it's that there's never any sort of outlier. There's no variance the other way.
Man.
Now I'm asking you, does it make sense for there not to be a single game where an opponent shoots better than expected?
I mean, in these short series, I just think things could kind of just snowball out of control.
That's fair. That's
before you know it, it's just like before you know it, you got to jump off the bandwagon. And I think that's where I was at with the Mavericks. I just had to tell myself, hey, look,
I bet Heat like this slight. I basically bet it so I could victory lap if I won. Like that is the only reason I bet it. Right? Like I couldn't, because I see all this stuff too. I just have a hard time when the outcomes are this disparate. I have a hard time believing it's real, which is Brandon's argument, which is like, this is real. And I don't know that it is, but it is what it's the result anyway.
It's real because of the injuries. Like, it's not an indictment of the season of the team that they were.
Just because you've angered me, I'm going to victory lap. On May 9th, a good, as we record this 17 days ago, Celtics to beat Heat in the middle of the conference semifinals was plus 650. And I bet
you came through with one of your team combos.
I bet a significant amount on that. The better one, honestly, looking right now, is that 10-1. I just realized this, that I have a 10-1 Celtic. I didn't just realize this, it was in my notes, but like I had to actually because it was like there's so many, quite honestly, but I have a 10-1 Celtics ticket and a 12-1 preseason Warriors ticket
on the conference,
the championship.
Wow.
Nice.
Oh, you're good.
In my action on the app, I have 2 units on 5-1 Warriors to win the conference, and I have a unit on 12-1 Celtics from like 2 weeks into this crazy Celtics stretch.
Yeah.
So yeah. Matt, let me ask you about the Heat. I try to figure out, okay, is there a Heat angle? If there's going to be one of the three of us, you're the angle. The Heat, if they're going to win Game 6, do we agree it has to be from the start? Like, there's no way that they're down a half and come back late, right?
No, actually, I think that there is a little bit based off of some historical precedent. And this is actually an interesting note. I want to look at this. I looked at first half. One angle I might wind up playing is Celtics first half. This is a crazy differential based on the splits on Bet Labs. This is perpendicular to your point. So if we look at teams that are up 3-2 at home as a favorite, okay? So Game 6, 3-2 at home, right? They're actually in the first half 17-22 for just 43.6% ATS versus that first half number, which I was like, wow.
That's the
then I
team?
looked up after the first round.
Mm-hmm.
They're 10-6. It literally flips from 43% to 63% after the first round, which makes a lot of sense when you think about, we talked about this in previous trend studies of, if you take out the first round when teams often are closer and there's more, I think not variance, but more of just there's more frauds, quite honestly, to be found in that first round.
Yeah.
Then we wind up with this. So I kind of like the Celtics here. I would say it's possible, Brandon. Here's the big question is just if Miami doesn't shoot well in that first half, but they shoot well in the second half, and if Boston doesn't get an outlier, if Boston just has a cold shooting night, then the Celtics could be up at half and Miami, I think, can come back. That to me is the 3-point variance thing is actually more, it's crazy that's true. The 3-point variance, I think, is more evident in this series than Warriors Mavericks, which is wild.
Yeah.
I think my thought on the halftime thing is just with the amount of injuries the Heat have, they have to understand that they are staring at the light at the end of the tunnel here. Mm-hmm. And if you go down at half on the road, Miami is not a team of quitters. Of all NBA teams, they're the least quittiest team there is. But if you got Butler and Hero and Lowry barely moving on the court out there, and you're already down at half, I just find it hard for that scenario to come back. So Heat to lead at half and win the game is 5-1 at BetMGM. So you could get basically now for the Heat to come out and just make the shots and lead all the way, you're getting what's 17% implied. That, I think, if you like the Heat at all, that I could see talking myself into that spot as a way to play them. But that's the best I can come up with.
Is there a first quarter? Is there because to me, I would rather play the first quarter than the first half.
There's not. Well, you probably could parlay to win the first quarter and win the game. I mean, you could play just the first quarter. Are you saying you want just the Heat to win the quarter?
I would rather play them in the first quarter because I think, that closeout game is just tough for a lot of teams. And I just think if you're going to get the Heat's best effort is going to come right away. You'll know right away if this game is over.
Yeah. Well, especially because the starter minutes have swung so heavily toward Boston in the last few games.
I'm looking up right now. I wanted to get a sense of what the Heat shot on wide open shots in.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I think I saw from, I forget who I saw online. Maybe Mike Prada. Semi-contested threes in the
Yeah, I
most
saw that
recent
too.
game. They were something like 0 of 22 on semi-contested threes.
They were 5 of 10 on uncontested. So hey, maybe that's
There
just
we go. Well,
maybe
that's
that
just
well, no, maybe that is just the Celtics defense. Like maybe that really is like the shorthand here, and my estimation is just wrong. Like I'm open on that.
yeah.
8 of
Well,
29 is what I've got on lightly contested.
Okay.
So.
You know, what's funny is that we all know, like all of us agree, the 3-point percentage thing is just unpredictable and doesn't carry from year to year. Except the one team that it always has kind of held on was the Brad Stevens Celtics teams all these years. So I wonder if there still is something that this franchise has figured out about, like, look, Robert Williams blocked 2 3-pointers yesterday with like a foot in the paint when the shot was going up, and he closed out and blocked it. Maybe the contests they're doing are just truly throwing off some of these shots in a way that we aren't qualifying.
I will just tell you, like, I can't be talked into any Heat bet. I can't.
Okay.
I'm at the point of it's frustrating, but like I'll take the L. I'll just be like, all right, okay, I guess the Celtics are a juggernaut and the Heat are trash, and I just have to live with that differential despite reason and logic. Brandon, let's talk conference finals MVP. Let me ask you this. So you took Jaylen Brown. What was the initial number you took Jaylen at?
So pre-series, I got him at 10-1. And then when I talked about it again, I believe it was either before or after game 3, and I recommended people bet it again. That was at 8-1. So right now, here's my position. Right now, I have tracked in the app. I have 2 units pre-series at 10-1, and I have another unit at 8-1. So I'm 3 units in. It pays out 28 units plus the 3 if Jaylen Brown wins MVP. Here are the numbers right now. Jaylen's at 25 points, 7.5 rebounds. Tatum's at 24 points, 7.8 rebounds. Their numbers are basically equal right now. Tatum is way ahead on assists. Jaylen has been slightly better shooting, better efficiency. The numbers are basically equal right now. And if this series was over, Tatum would pretty easily be the MVP, in my opinion. Do you guys agree with that?
Nope. I think last night literally swung it towards you. Because not only did he have a monster game, but he had the best of all worlds, Brandon. He fought back against adversity after a terrible first half.
After a horror, he had 4 turnovers in the first quarter. We tweeted about
Jaylen Brown stopped trying to dribble and just shot.
That's true.
Jaylen Brown was able to overcome.
But Jayson Tatum was an assist away from a triple-double last night, though. Like, if Jayson Tatum has 1 more assist, the MVP is over, because it's like, oh, Tatum had a triple-double in the swing game 5, and like it's ridiculous, but he's 1 assist away from that. So here's where we're at right now. Jayson Tatum is the favorite. He's at -150 at FanDuel, is the best price I can see. Jaylen Brown is around +150. It's one of those two. Clearly, there's no one else in Boston going to take it. And obviously, Miami could win the series, and that would swing things.
You can get Jaylen Brown at +240 at DraftKings.
Okay, but I'm looking at the other side, though. So if you want in on Jaylen Brown, that's the price at DraftKings. +240, you said?
Yeah, +240.
So here's what I want to talk through. Raheem, this is a hedge question, especially for you. I know you hate hedging. But so I'm in big on Jaylen Brown. And I've had a bunch of our listeners are asking me on social media, on Twitter and wherever, should I hedge? Should I hedge on Jaylen Brown? I think it's kind of a coin flip spot right now. Tatum, the best price you can get is -150. And obviously part of your hedge potentially could be to bet Miami to win the series, which is +750, because it's not like only Tatum can win MVP, that he could still steal the series. So here's what I came up with, and I want to know what you think of it. So I got 3 units on Jaylen Brown to pay out 28 units right now, combined in my position. You'll have to do the math a little differently if you are invested otherwise. I can put 7.5 units on Jayson Tatum. That pays out 5. And then I put 2 units on Miami to win the series at +750. Here's where that would leave me. Jaylen Brown wins MVP. I'm still up 18.5 units. So I've sacrificed 10 of my 28 profits. Tatum wins MVP. I'm out clean. I didn't make any profit, but I covered everything. Miami wins the series. I'm up 4.5 units. What do you think about that hedge? And is it worth giving up some of my Brown position to cover me, or do I just ride Brown to the end at this point?
I don't like hedging with Miami. Get that out of here.
Okay.
Like, if you're gonna hedge, just hedge with Tatum. At the end of the day, it's like there's some gamble involved, but the Celtics are 8.5-point favorites in Game 6. What are we doing? And the Heat need to win 2 games to win this series.
So here's the reason why I added the Miami potential hedge is this. Tatum is normally, I think you would agree, Raheem, right? That normally you only hedge if you are the spot in the favorite. And we're not in the favorite spot here. Jaylen Brown is not the favorite. So if I want to hedge on Tatum enough to get something out of it, I have to pay a bunch. Like I have to put 6 units on Tatum to get 4 units back. And even then, I'm still down overall. Like I barely came out ahead.
How many units do you have on Miami right now, or in that scenario?
Right now, all I have right now in the app, I have 3 units on Jaylen Brown.
I'm asking in this scenario, how many units were you
just two units on Miami in the scenario.
All right, I would tell you to go down to a half unit on Miami and put the rest on Tatum.
Honestly, I really don't think you should put anything on Miami.
I would tell you it's worth it, because even though, like, look, I just said I'm not going to bet them. I'm willing to accept this, but like, look, Rod, if finally the shooting variance shows up and the Celtics have one night where they can't hit, and Butler has one night where, like, oh, hey,
it has to happen 2 games. You're asking it to happen.
I know, but then you're Game 7 at home.
Yeah, but then it's Game 7 at home, and like, you can feel fine about it, but from where you're at right now, you're gonna be like, no, there's no way. The Celtics just went in there and won the last 2. Blah 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 blah.
I think it's
Game 7 at home.
I hear what y'all saying, but at some point you got to be like, you know what? I got the best of it. If Miami comes back and beats me, I can live with it.
Okay, so I think I'm mostly with you on that. So the Heat bet should be minimized or removed. However you want to do that, maybe half unit or nothing. Yeah. Should other bettors bet on Tatum as the favorite, or do you just ride out the Brown bet? Matt, you think Brown's the MVP right now. I have 3 units on Brown at better than 9-1. If that's the case, if you think he's the MVP right now, should I just ride that out and not bet on Tatum at all?
You should definitely bet Tatum.
Definitely bet Tatum.
You definitely bet Tatum.
Okay.
Because, like, who's more likely to have a great Game 6? And the answer is Tatum, because he's a better player.
Yeah.
And he's had a good enough series to be the favorite. And even though I think Jaylen's in a great spot for you. The other thing I'll tell you is, like, I have history of the Finals MVP. This is the first time this conference thing has ever been awarded, right?
Yeah, we don't know.
And I'll tell you, because of that, it's probably going to be 6 voters, and it's probably going to be 2 TV. It's going to be Jackson, Van Gundy, maybe Breen. You're going to probably get Washburn. There's a bunch of people from the Heat it could be. So, like, my thing here is I genuinely think that this is an unstable environment enough to where I do think that I think you're in a good spot with Jaylen, but I absolutely think that Tatum deserves.
Okay. So then let me propose this, and maybe, we're talking a unit size here. Maybe you don't even have a position to do this. So forget Miami. Miami's out. We're just on Jaylen and Tatum. I'm not putting any more on Jaylen. I've already got my position, 3 units to win 28. I put 15 units on Jayson Tatum. Minus 150 pays me back 10. Basically, that's somewhere in that range. Now I'm in the middle. Now Jayson Tatum wins Conference Finals MVP. I think I'm up 7 units. And if Jaylen Brown comes through and wins Conference Finals MVP, I believe I'm up 13 units, somewhere in there. Like, do we think Tatum is still the more likely winner, and I should be betting even more Tatum if I can, and basically try to come out with a plus 10 on either side? Because my other play is basically Tatum gets me out even. I cover my initial investment, but I'm still banking on Brown to win.
If you're doing this, just take the Heat and put it on Tatum and come out with a marginal, like a small profit if Tatum wins and a great profit if Brown wins. Because if nothing else, like, this is about, like, the type of bettor you are too. Like,
yeah, that's true.
it like you are not you're if you do the 110, you're just gonna be like, you're not gonna be happy about it. But if you do this, you're gonna be like with Tatum, you're like, haha, I was smart this time and I hedged, I came out with a profit. And with Brown, you'll be like, I am the smartest man alive. I'm going to victory lap all over this podcast because Raw's gone.
Yeah. To be clear, just so that, because we'll wrap with this on this topic. I personally will not hedge because I have Jaylen at 3 units. I still think like I'm getting huge value on my Jaylen spot. And if I'm wrong, I lost 3 units. I can afford to be wrong on it. I have won enough other stuff. I made over 3 units on Jimmy Butler under just yesterday. I'm just going to let it ride. I don't have too much to lose. I don't need to cover that. But if you're a listener, you've heard a lot of options here, ways to cover, ways to go for Tatum, ways to cover for Miami. So hopefully that gave you some ideas of how to hedge if you'd like to.
All right, we're going to get out of here. Thanks for joining us on Buckets. We'll be back tomorrow. Either we'll either be talking about game 6 for Mavericks Warriors, or Brandon and I will be back to talk about Warriors props and sides for the conference finals. Before we get out of here, Raheem Palmer, your last Buckets episode. You want to say anything?
Yeah, I'm just want to thank everybody who followed me during this journey. I started during the NBA bubble. I was a professional sports bettor, and in the middle of the pandemic, I had no idea what I was going to do in my life. My boy sent me, tweets saying that Action Network was looking for writers. Brian Mears, Matthew Friedman, they interviewed me. Malik, he also interviewed me, and they brought me in, and I just got the opportunity to just work with a bunch of great people. Matt Moore, he's a legend. Brandon, he's been one of my best friends since I've been here. So I'm just super blessed and super thankful for the opportunity. I loved it here. I had a great time. Matt and Brandon are going to continue to kill it, but so many people I can shout out: Chad Millman, Patrick Keene, Malik, Mears, Friedman, the whole NBA staff. I mean, Joe Delara, even the guys who, aren't even here, Justin Fan, Preston Johnson who came in, Brendan Glasheen, Joe Delara, Austin Wang, a lot of our editors, Katie, Kenzie. I just had such a great time. It's just, I'm going to miss you guys, but y'all going to continue to kill it. Tune in to Buckets every single week. Y'all know how it's going down. Action Network. Y'all know what it is.
Ra, what is your most proud bet that you've made since you joined Action? Which one? I need one more victory lap from you.
Believe it or not, I think it's the Miami Heat in 2020.
Oh yeah.
Like it's either that one. No, it's not that one. I've had some good ones. All right, so I can kind of name like 4 or 5. So at the Miami,
I'm gonna settle in. We're gonna be here a while.
I had the Miami Heat during the pandemic Eastern Conference Finals. A lot of people were on the Celtics. I was on the Heat. I had the Bucks to come down from 3-2 to beat the Brooklyn Nets. That's probably one of my favorite bets of all time, next to the Raptors and Bucks, because I was actually in attendance at that game. Obviously, most recently, the Dallas Mavericks to beat the Phoenix Suns, because a lot of people didn't believe that. So, I mean, those are probably my 3 favorites. Me and Brandon actually came close to cashing our 49ers future. We rode the 49ers all throughout the NBA, all throughout the NFL postseason. And even though they didn't get our future, they covered all 3 games they played in the postseason. And what they say, great teams, they cover. Doesn't matter if they win. So we had some really, really fun bets. I'm trying to think. Damn, this is our 3rd season. Yeah, this is our 3rd season. So
you brought up Bucks Raptors. I hate you for that. Then you tried to victory lap on a losing bet on Garoppolo after I specifically tried to warn the 2 of you off of.
We didn't lose. We won. They covered. They were getting 3.5. They lost by 3. They covered all 3 games in the postseason.
And that Niners ticket did what? It
was 20-1. We were 25-1. If we would have cashed that, look, I'm gonna tell you how crazy it was. They were up 10 in the 4th quarter. I think I took this bottle of Vivo Clico right here and I put it on ice. I chilled it because I was ready to. We were gonna pop bottles all on the Action Network podcast, and then they just melted down. But we still cashed the ticket.
All right, that's Raheem Palmer. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being on the pod, Raw. You're one of my favorite people I've ever worked with. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so sad that you're moving on, but I'm excited for your new adventure. You can follow Raw on Twitter. I am Rostradamus. Brandon and I'll be back tomorrow with Warriors, Mavericks, or Warriors finals content. We'll talk to you guys again later. Thanks for joining us. Let's get buckets.